Hey, welcome back to the Big Ranch Show. Thank you for joining me. Now, 65 years ago today, something rather amazing happened. It was a rather simple act of defiance. A rather didn't seem like it would be much. But 65 years ago today, Rosa Parks stood up for civil rights by taking a seat on a bus. She got on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama. The bus started to apparently fill up. The bus driver told her to move to the back. Rosa Parks refused to move and subsequently was arrested, charged, and convicted, apparently, of disorderly conduct. Now, you wouldn't think that's a big deal, but back at that point in time, back in the 50s, it was definitely a big issue. Rosa Parks was born in, I believe, 1913. She was a seamstress. And by her one simple act of defiance, helped push change across this country. Now, it took almost a decade after that event for public transit to be completely desegregated across the country by the 1964 Civil Rights Act. But immediately upon her conviction, it started a 381-day boycott of the Montgomery, Alabama transit system. All because of segregation. What you could also refer to as hate. But she stood up to that hate, that injustice, that said that African Americans were less than, that they had to move because a white person wanted their seat. Rosa Parks stood up against that 65 years ago today. And because of what she did, it ended up creating a huge firestorm, huge boycott against the transit system there. So bad that the Supreme Court had to rule in a way to end it by saying that segregation was not going to continue on the Montgomery busing system. And like I said, it took until 1964 for that to happen nationwide. Rosa Parks is definitely earned her spot in history for fighting for the greater good. And little would she have known that what she did would usher in, a whole complete change in the way things were done. A whole push to end segregation. All because she sat down. So on this day, December 1st, 1955, 65 years ago, Rosa Parks did the unthinkable. She sat down. And that's it. To think that at some point in time in this country that it was so bad for minority people in this country that they couldn't even sit on a bus without being harassed. They couldn't sit at a counter at a restaurant. Segregation has got to be one of the biggest stains on this country. One of the biggest stains, you ask me, is definitely slavery to begin with. But the Jim Crow era, all the hate for African Americans who were brought here against their will for the most part. Yet, their families, after the slaves were released and freed, as they should have been in the first place, because nobody should be a slave to anybody. It took somebody like Rosa Parks with the courage that she had to sit down and say, no, I'm not getting up. I'm already here. It's just really amazing, if you ask me, how people are. It doesn't make any sense. But maybe this little quote, maybe it'll show you some insight into her psyche. She says, I've learned over the years that when one's mind is made up, this diminishes fear. Knowing what must be done does away with fear. And I think she's absolutely right. It's really amazing how one simple act pushed for change like it did. We wouldn't be have an America where everyone was considered free if it wasn't for people like Rosa Parks. Anyways, thank you for watching. If you don't know a whole lot about the Rosa Parks stuff that happened, look it up. It's everywhere out there. It should have been in your history book, but I know how history gets taught in this country. Anyhow, y'all have a great day. I'll see you down the road.